All right, my people, what happened a few days ago in Kwara State is something of a great concern. Yes, despite that the U.S. troops, they are on ground, these guys are still killing in numbers. This is to tell you that something is wrong from somewhere, and to tell you that their backup is not something of ordinary, that they have strong backup. But let me say this thing. People may be confused that these guys are killing Muslims, because what happened in Kwara State is about more of Muslims. Yes, all these things are gimmicks. Let me tell you, this extremist religious ideology is quite different, and is about control, is about power. They may decide to use any guise. Maybe they can use Sharia as a guise, as a disguise, so that they can be looking for power and control of territory. You see the problem? It is not about religion. It's not about Islam. It's about using some tools in the Islam to control territories and to get more power. That is what they want, and that is the target. Well, some of us that understand what I'm saying knows what I'm saying. If you are doubting it, make some research and understand what I'm saying. You understand that it's not about religion, it's about power and control. If not, what happens to this aspect of Quran that says, whoever that kills a person unjustly, it is as if he has killed all mankind. Quran 5:32. Another section says, there is no compulsion in religion. Quran says there is no compulsion in religion. Quran 2:5-6. That's chapter 2, verse 256. I don't know whether they use it like that, whether they call chapter and verse. Then another one, to you, your religion, and to me, mine. Quran 109, chapter 109, verse 6. You can check, you can Google. So what happened to these sections in Quran? If Quran is about Sharia and other things, forcing people, killing people because they don't agree on what you are saying, this is to tell you that these people is about control. And these extremists even, kill fellow Muslims because their ideology is not really about Islam. It's about power, control, absolutism. Then religion is a tool that they use to carry out this control. They hide under religion and be doing these things. You see, power and control, not faith. Extremist group, what they want is territory. What they want is to put fear. They want obedience. All these things they do is to put fear for you to obey. Obedience, then resources. Killing fellow Muslims who oppose them. They remove resistance, intimidate communities, forces compliance. These are the things that they do to control territories. So in the actual sense, once they do this kind of killing, attack and whatever, they have actually conquered that place. They have gained that territory. That is their target. It's not about Sharia. It's not about any other thing. Muslim. It's about territory they are interested in. And that is the truth.
When I'm talking about Islamization agenda, you think you know better than me. You think most of us have been shouting and talking and trying to sensitize Nigerians about the Islamization agenda of these Fulani jihadists. You think you know better. And some of you in the West, from the Yoruba land, are so foolish that you think the people from the North, the jihadists, because they call Allah Akbar, you think you are the same. No. So I'm tired of the folly of Nigerians. Our foolishness knows no bound. Your foolishness knows no bound. That when we should rise up and speak with one, with one voice, you think it's between Christian Muslim, and you play politics, and you play ethnic cards with it. You all are foolish, I'm telling you. You think you know better. Between today is Thursday, between Monday and today, Over 300 people have been annihilated, have been unalived in Nigeria. And nobody has done anything reasonable about it. You think you know better? When I tell you of Islamization agenda, you think you know better than me, isn't it? You all are foolish. Fulanis went to Woro village in Kwara state, which most of the people actually are Muslims. But because they have been preaching, they were preaching to them to accept Sharia as a governing law against the Nigerian constitution. Sharia as a governing law against the Nigerian constitution. And the people rejected. And the people said no, they would rather stick to the Nigerian constitution and be governed by the Nigerian constitution instead of Sharia. And even though most of these people are even Muslims, they executed. They didn't just unalive them. They tied their hands behind their back in Woro village, tied their hands behind their backs. What you do to criminals, they tied their hands behind their backs and executed them. Over 200 of them. Oh, of course, the media say 170. If media tell you 170, I've always told you, divide the number by 2, they add on top of it. So there are over 200 and something people that were executed because they refused Sharia law. And I told you the other time in my video when I was explaining the pattern of Islamization. When I was explaining the sequence, the stages of Islamization, number 1 is that they're moving. They're either moving by migration or they're moving by invasion. Number 2, they occupy government positions. And when they begin to occupy government positions, they begin to vow for, different stuff like that. Number 3, they begin to multiply. And when they multiply to a certain number, then number 4, they implement Sharia. And the moment you accept Sharia, then jihad will happen. And Nigeria presently, 12 states are practicing Sharia. 12 states. And if you think those people carrying these atrocities and carrying those guns at the minute, you are wasting your time because the people that are backing them up are the 2 people that are up high there. They are religious leaders, the oligarchs in the north, the politicians, most of them in the military that are backing them up. They will not come up, but they are supporting it. They want to turn Nigeria to a Turkey. They want to turn Nigeria to a Lebanon. They want to turn Nigeria to a Jordan. They want to turn Nigeria to an Egypt. And we keep shouting this thing every day. Wow, over 200 people executed like that, and we are going about our businesses as proper people with no consequence whatsoever. You think you know better than me, isn't it? I keep talking of Islamization agenda, but you think I'm foolish. Not knowing that you are the one that is foolish. For the Yoruba people, I warn you again, be careful. See, I've told you before, in that video I told you, I said the Igbo land will be the most difficult. But what they're going to use in the Igbo land is money, because they understand, see, the devil will always tell you with what you like most. They know the Igbo people like money. And you'll find that their allergies will begin to woo their people, they'll begin to marry their daughters with money, they'll begin to settle their sons with money, and because of that, Islam will enter. But it will take a long time. So what they do is, they start conquering from the north, and then when they spread to the west, because it will be easy to spread into the west than to the southeast. And then from the west now, they'll conquer. Now you see, their activity in Kwara is very, very, is very evident now. Their activity in Kwara is evident. Their activities in Kwara is effective. Guess where they are going next? No. You think it's Igbo land or it's South? No, they are entering your state. And they are already in the forest of Oyo. Presently, as I'm telling you. Information reach me. They are already in the forest of Oyo. They'll spread to Ogun. And from there, you think you're in Lagos state and you cannot be touched. No. You think you're in Lagos state, you cannot be touched. I tell you, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. You see the speed at which they are moving. It is just a matter of time. It is just a matter of time. I want to tell you, look for how to defend yourself. These people are relentless. These jihadists are relentless. I call on President Tinubu, better do. You see, the re-election thing is just on your mind. The politicians they don't have your time. They don't care about you. Let 500 be killed today, they don't care. They don't go about their campaign. To them it's about party. To them it's about party. And we have idiots, useless men in this government that would rather come and instead of sympathize with the people or profess solution or aggressively attack these people, they would rather come out and banter Peter Obi or banter one party or the other. I'm telling you, if you don't stand and defend yourself and genuinely and vehemently resist Sharia in the West, your situation will be what is happening in the North. You think you know better, isn't it? When we keep shouting, you are playing tribal cards. You think it's because we are against Tinubu, we keep talking. And every time we bring up facts, you turn into tribal cards. You think it's about tribalism. You think it's about because we are speaking against Tinubu. You are very foolish. You will still come under this tweet and attack me, but no problem. I want to call on the Nigerian military. As much as I know many of you are compromised, I want to call on the Nigerian government. Do not allow the Fulanis, a minority tribe that is causing mayhem, a minority tribe, an infinitesimal amount of people that can be silenced once. We can't allow you to get dominant, to get ground. I told you of Islamization agenda, you think I'm playing. No problem. If Sharia is not abolished intentionally in Nigeria, I am telling you, 20 years from today, we are not ending this problem. If Sharia is not abolished in Nigeria, 20 years from today, this challenge is not ending. We have become a people that is totally a people of no relevance. We have become a mockery to the international communities. Look, I'm talking now, they took the light. For 60-something years, power supplies cannot be constant in Nigeria. Causing chaos, causing anarchy in Nigeria. The Islamists, these Fulanis. I've talked about that you should hold Sultan accountable for a lot of this, you did not hear me. I've spoken that you should hold Gumi accountable for most of this, you did not hear me. No problem. We're here. I want to all I'll keep saying that the church must rise up to begin to defend itself. Because you see, if they can do that to a community that are even with Muslims, simply because they rejected Sharia, how do you think it will be for Christian communities? If we don't rise up and begin to initiate the Crusader program gradually at this time, to begin to raise people, security networks for the church that will defend Christians in Christian communities. If you think this is ending anytime soon, you are wasting your time. This what we are going to Nigeria is not ending anytime soon. It's not ending anytime soon until you meet their nonsense, their stupidity with a higher level of violence. Until you meet their violence with a higher level of violence before they run away. They will never stop as much as we keep negotiating. We see about how many over 100 people that were kidnapped from the church. They are still there. Entering into the church with such audacity and kidnap people that are still there. If you think this is ending anytime soon, you're wasting your time. If we don't rise and begin to meet their nonsense, their foolishness with a higher level of violence, 20 years from today, 30 years from today, we are not ending this. And I've told you, Nigeria will never be Islamized. We will rather divide. After all, I've said it over and over. This marriage, this entity called Nigeria is a scam. We have been deceiving ourselves for too long. Nobody wants to say. People don't many of us know. Nobody wants to say it's a scam. If we don't rise up, these guys are not relenting. They will continue to labor to ensure that they bring Nigeria to a Turkey or to a Lebanon state, and we will not permit that. We will rather divide. The church must rise up at this time. All those nonsensical compromises are trying to be diplomatic. These people are not diplomatic with you. You are the one that want to be diplomatic. Oh yeah, now. No problem. We will keep speaking. What we will not do again is to be silent. When I'm talking Nigeria, either in Nigeria or all over the world, there are 5 stages of Islamization. Number 1 is movement. Now this movement is divided into 2, either by migration or by invasion. So they come to and they migrate to a new settlement, and in the process of that migration, when they come there, they look so peaceful. They are not violent. When they migrate to a new society, that is why you see that they say, these people are loving, these people are kind, these people are peaceful. They migrate. And that's why you find that is happening in the whole of Europe today. They are moving at an accelerated rate, migrating. The second part of that movement, or the second way it can happen, is through invasion. Meaning that they come, conquer the people, fight them, destroy them, and take over their territory. This is what we saw when the Fulanis invaded by Usman Dan Fodio, when they invaded the Hausa land in the north. I hope you know that are indigenous Hausa people. The Gobiris. Is it the Kabawa or something like that? They are indigenous Hausa people. They were conquered by Dan Fodio. So that is by invasion. They come, they invade. So they invaded the north, conquered the north, and they took all of the north. But they have not been what they are doing in other parts of Nigeria is by migration. What you see that is happening in Europe today is by migration. So they will go there, settle down there. But at that time, they look so peaceful. You look at them, you say, these people are loving and kind. But there's an agenda. The second stage is population. At the first stage, they are not much, so they look so peaceful. The second stage is to ensure that they become about 40 to 50% of the population of that nation. So they begin to multiply, give birth to 5 children, 7 children, have as many as 5 wives, 4 wives. You think it's by play? No. It's an agenda to ensure that they are the most populous in that place. That's why today you hear them say the north is very populous. Parents giving birth to children they cannot cater for. But there's an agenda just to ensure that they are the most populous. Are you learning? So at that stage, the next stage, once they have been able to settle, the next thing they begin to do is to ensure that they are the majority. So they begin to increase in population, reproducing and reproducing, bringing in their colleagues, bringing in their family from different parts to ensure that they overwhelm that place with number. To ensure that there are about 40-50% of population in that place. That is stage 2. Some 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you go to the UK, you find very little Muslims. Very little. Some 20-25 years ago, if you go to the UK, you find very little mosque. But today, there are thousands of mosques in Europe. In UK, in Canada, there are thousands of them. So when they are coming, when they come, they are so peaceful in stage 1. But in stage 2, the moment they know that they begin to gain number, then that is when their agenda begins to go into place. So the second stage is that they multiply. Then when that has happened, then they move to the third stage. What is the third stage? The third stage is to position themselves in power, in government, in the military, strategic positions, strategic places. Are you with me? That's why if you go to Abuja now, and you go to federal government parastatals, you see almost everywhere, malams everywhere. Malams everywhere. Position themselves in military, overwhelm the military in number. The Northerners are the most in the military today. Both army, air force, police, whatever it is, they are more in number. So they position themselves in strategic position in government. They begin to gain power. That was how they did it in Turkey. They begin to gain power. That was how they did it in Lebanon. But there's an agenda. And I pity UK. I pity Europe. Because when their agenda is fully materialized, what is happening in Nigeria will be a chance play to them there. Today you have cities and colonies and cities in Europe that are governed by Muslims, by Arabs. You think they're trying to be liberal. The Europe is playing political correctness, but they have no idea what they're doing. So stage 3.
Now, armed men have reportedly killed at least 170 people in Nigeria's western Kwara state. Police say bandits burned homes and shops during an attack late on Tuesday. Schools across Kwara state had been closed in recent days because of rising violence. The governor approved the resumption of classes on Sunday, saying the security situation had improved. Ahmed Idris joins us live from Abuja. Ahmed, what more do you know about this?
Well, basically, Nick, it was around 6 p.m. local time that dozens of gunmen, known locally as bandits, but again, we continue to hear from locals that this is a signature attack by an extremist group that is linked to Boko Haram. There is a commander that operates in that area called Sadiko. That's the suspect at the time being, for the time being. We understand that these gunmen targeted this community around 6 p.m. local time, which is around 5:17 hours GMT, and then encircled communities started firing at random, killing. Initially, the numbers we got yesterday was around 40, and then as the day wore on until this morning, we realized that the number has increased from 40 to 70, and now we're hearing about 172 people who've been killed. It's not clear how many people have been abducted yet, but again, we continue to see a similar incidents whenever there is increased military activity in areas where these armed groups are strong, either bandits or Boko Haram or ISWAP in the northeast of Nigeria or in the northwest of Nigeria. There have been recent military operations in that area, and we've seen that regularly in almost every state where there's been a recent military activity there. The military has announced that they have destroyed camps being operated by these armed groups in that particular region of Nigeria, and a few days later we're seeing this. So basically what we understand right now is the number of the dead has risen to more than 170, and there are more who have not been accounted for. What is not clear at the moment is how many people have been abducted, but communities or locals in that area, in Kwara community, are saying that they are not aware of any person who've been abducted. The purpose of the attackers was to kill as many as possible, and they have done that. Nick.
Ahmed Idris joining us live from Abuja on that attack in Nigeria's western Kwara state. Thanks, Ahmed.
So the game is not about Islam. The game is about control. They are hiding under Islam and be putting fear in people to gain territories. That is what they are doing. That's all. So people should open their eyes. Americans, people are calling on America, Trump, to divide Nigeria into 4 places. Not the initial 2 as they plan. I don't know. So, but the plan is let people be free and practice their religion. These guys are after territories. They are gathering more territories to themselves. It is not about any Islam. Nah, lie.
We got to wake up. The enemy is inside the gates. Islamic extremism is infiltrating the U.S. and refusing to assimilate. The Quran instructs them to kill all infidels. It specifically encourages them to behead all infidels. If you're not a Muslim, they don't want you here. It provides clear instructions about how they are to steal from non-Muslims. It's no wonder that a group of Somalians have been accused of stealing, 18 billion to this point, and growing, as President Trump says. Woke cities like Michigan, Minnesota, and New Jersey are replacing American civic norms with radical Islamic policies. If people like Ilhan Omar love this way of life back home, why don't you just move the hell back? This is our country. The press can call me an Islamophobe all they want. I don't care. It doesn't make me any difference. I love this country. I love what it stands for. I love that it's a Christian nation, and it's going to stay that way. Because if we don't do it, in the very near future, we're going to look like Europe. We're going to look like some of these other countries that have lost their way of life.
All right, having watched that, we want to see and bring to you different people's opinion concerning what is going on. And just like somebody said, as you hear 170, just know that you just times it by 3. That is the figure, the actual figure that was involved. Because it's a negative news, they will not like to give you the correct figure. They will downplay it, but the actual figure is somewhere. Yes. So, but however, let's hear people's opinion concerning what is going on in Nigeria about that killings.
With regards to his silence to the issues that have happened in Kwara and several other security breaches across the country, it's rather sad. With what is going on in Nigeria, we keep on wondering, do we have a police force? Do we have a DSS, Department of State Security? What is the National Security Advisor being paid a humongous salary for? What is even the military doing? Because if some people can go and kill over 170 Nigerians for over 10 hours, because from the time the killing started till when the first military men arrived was more than 10 hours. If it can happen to a community in Kwara State, who says it cannot happen to my community in Imo State, or to the communities in Lagos or other communities? So the NSA has totally lost focus of what should be his duties. His duty is to advise on security issues. And with this kind of insecurity breaking loose every now and then across the country, and he has the guts to come and talk about vote buying and all that stuff, I beg, it's sad. It's sad that we have this kind of low quality characters leading our various sensitive agencies. It's a shame, actually.
All right, Barrister Ezeluche, with what happened recently in Kwara, the social media space has been agog with several angles of the conversation. Some persons are sensationalizing what happened. There are also ethnic colorations and religious colorations to what happened. But the general purview is the apathy attached to what happened. So you see a section of persons saying, well, since they are not from a particular region, it is their business. Or if it's Muslims or Fulanis or whatever, they're brothers. Or if it's a particular act of Kwara State that is of the Southwest, then it doesn't concern them. And the reaction of sympathy, of crying out, just a few persons are objective and have expressed a form of sympathy. How do we categorize the political space now with recent happenings where Nigerians actually don't even care? At this point in time, everything is looked at from a prism of religious or ethnic, colorations. The politics seems to be more frazzled and disoriented and disconnected. What happened? How did it deteriorate to this point that now every day killings are no longer viewed with sympathy? It's now looked at what section did it happen. If it didn't happen in my region, in my location, it's none of my business. How did it come to this point? Would you blame the politicians for this, or Nigerians have just gone the extra mile in this aspect of looking at issues at the polity?
Well, thank you very much. From the very onset of this regime, the Bola Tinubu regime, right from the time it announced itself as winners of the presidential elections, the party, Mr. President and his cohorts have focused on the next election. They totally abandoned governance. All they have been interested in is how do you tax Nigerians more, how do you exploit Nigerians more, how do you drain more blood from Nigerians, and not governance. Insecurity, poor economy, poor education, downfall in all facets of development has been the order of the day in Nigeria. So this is what has now crystallized into this general apathy by Nigerians. They are now, everybody's like thinking of himself, him or herself, him or her own village or basic neighborhood. And this is actually what they do to cage us in a cul-de-sac and then continue to rule us with vengeance. Because nowadays nobody's even bothered. Somebody on Rivers will say, no, this is a Kwara problem. When the same thing happens in Rivers, or in Plateau. The man in Kano or Lagos will say, no, it's their own problem until it hits us. But we're all Nigerians. Now, whether those who died in Kwara are Christians or Muslims, the basic fact is that they are human beings who have been failed by their state. Their country has failed them. Their police, their military, their security agencies have failed those people, just like they have failed all Nigerians. Because the kidnappings, the killings happens everywhere. No part of the country is safe. So those who think that because it's happened in Kwara State, then they can remain distant from it, no, that is not how it is. We must empathize with them. We must empathize with those who mourn and maybe have joy with those who have joy. But there has been so much money in this country for damn too long. And rather than even address it, all we will hear from Mr. President is I want to use the word silly, but a very odd condolence message from either Bayo or Ononuga, one of those characters, that Mr. President condoles with the people, and he has ordered the military to go where? To go where, for goodness sake? Because they will go to that Kwara State. The next day it will happen in Niger or Benue or Plateau or some other place. Who goes there again? It's a total failure of intelligence, total failure of governance. And Nigerians should realize that one way out of this mess is to ensure that these characters who stole themselves into power in 2023 are not allowed to stay a day beyond when they should leave by 2027. That way we can now start afresh and rebuild our great nation. But with these characters in office, it's almost a hopeless situation for Nigerians.
Barrister, as of late 2025 and early this year, today is February 6, 2026, so we're still in the early part of the year 2026. The president and his administration, they have faced significant criticism from political opponents and Nigerians alike, security experts, public commentators just like you, with several alleging that his administration lacks the political will or capacity to handle the country's worsening security issues. They frequently cited factors regarding the administration's approach to handling the insecurity in the country. They have alleged the lack of political will. They have alleged the fact that despite several talks like you just highlighted from Bayo Onanuga and other cabinet spokespersons, the insecurity persists. There's also the fact that the administration is prioritizing politics over security. There are concerns over command and control within the Nigerian security echelon, that's the security outfit, which is our Navy, Police, Army, Air Force, and the likes. And the fact that their response to these incidents lacks any form of sympathy. It's apathetical with how they react to these issues. Now, the administration of the day said that they have applied and implemented technological investment to the security, that is the armed forces, to help them navigate and have to fight these guys. They've also talked about the alteration, that is the change in security appointments. You know what happened last year where the Minister of Defense emerged from, and then the fact that they have been going with ongoing operations to counter the activities of these guys. But it feels like the negative aspect overwhelms or overshadows whatever effort the government of the day is putting into it. How would you describe this, sir?
Well, the reality is that you cannot be better than what you can achieve, your maximum. I mean, those are the helm of affairs, right from the very highest echelons of governance, Mr. Bola Tinubu himself. And these are characters who have profited immensely from Nigerian polity without contributing a dime to development issues. We look at his governance of Lagos State. He enriched himself beyond proportions, beyond the reasonable sense of even profiteering. So he's doing the same thing in Nigeria. With Nigeria, I mean, all his policies are geared towards self-aggrandizement and self-profiting for himself and his corporates. And in that, guys, you leave governance, you leave the development, you leave the economy, you leave the education sector. That is what has happened to Nigeria. So Mr. President cannot say he's done anything much. All he's done is to change service chiefs, change guards, and what of the basics? What of the troop morale? Those troops at the forefront. What has happened to them? When you do treatment, when you do reintegration and have shown for Boko Haram terrorists, and you even offer them more than what the soldiers are getting, what kind of sense, what kind of message are you passing to the troops? The police people who are supposed to be the first line of security, look at how they live in the barracks. I mean, he has virtually done nothing. for the grassroots sector of the security agencies. All he's done is he has over-pampered the generals, giving them millions of naira upon retirement. But those who do the nitty-gritty of the security work, what have you done for them? Absolutely or near nothing. So that is what this government has not planned out any approach to address insecurity, to address any of our developmental challenges. All it has done since inception has been, how do I extract more from Nigerians? So with that kind of governance, that kind of government in place, that kind of regime, what do you expect from these people? You can't expect anything positive from them. And Nigerians should channel this outrage, channel the angst towards ensuring that they do not stay a day longer than necessary, despite all their manipulations, despite all their efforts. Because a continuation of these characters in office will lead to the ruination, the doom of most Nigerians. So we can't allow that to happen. Thank you very much.
All right, Barrister Eze Uche, in that regard, let's look at a couple of actors that have made comments ever since we began to experience a consistent sporadic increase in insecurity. For example, the presidential candidate of the SDP has actually said that the president, aside from lacking the political will, is weak to handle insecurity and that he's enabling it. Do you think that is the case? Because the president has expressed anger over the persistent killings. He has called all the security agencies for a closed door meeting to ask them what is going on and in what way they need assistance to handle this, because it has actually become quite embarrassing for the All Progressives Congress with the seemingly increasing spate of insecurity from the previous administration of Muhammadu Buhari. There were expectations that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration would be different in regards to insecurity, but it feels like there's a deterioration, there's a decline, or it's got worse. So if the president has put efforts to provide what is needed for the security agents to handle this, who are those sabotaging these efforts? We have heard of talks that these agents in government leak out secret and strategic information to the terrorists. We've also heard of informants within the ranks of the security agents to the terrorists. How will the military handle this? And is the president fair enough or giving them a deadline to ensure that these individuals are decimated?
Now, when you have for even an entity like the Nigerian Police Force, you retain somebody who otherwise would have retired some over a year ago as the President of Police. You do the same thing for some of these agencies. You bring in retired old hands who perhaps are even bereft of what to do to address these issues. How can you make progress? Like from the onset, you said you had mentioned that information technology, using mere drones, can go a long way to address these issues. But when you rather than buying drones for the security agencies, you prefer to buy $400-500 million naira vehicles, jeeps, bulletproof jeeps for the service chiefs. What is the priority? Is it that the security of a single officer is more than the security of the entire Nigerian nation? So when you look at the focus of this administration, just to pamper the ego and the cushion a few at the expense of the Nigerian nation, how can there be progress? So the reality is this: I do not think that Mr. President has actually even wants to address the security issue. Because if they address the security issue and everywhere is secured, I mean, they will become insecure themselves. This is a government that thrives in insecurity. They will give out billions under the guise of tackling insecurity, and at the end of the day, this money goes down the drains because it is not well channeled. It is not well gifted. You just give out this money to your cronies, and then the soldiers at the forefront are left without the basic weapons. So Mr. President and his regime did not set out for governance. They set out to capture power for the gains and profits they will get. So, and not to address the pains of Nigerians. That is why, for instance, every sector of governance of the society, is it the health, is it education, is it security, is it, you name it, economy, everything has virtually collapsed. The only thing that is increasing is the salaries and emoluments of government officials. So that is what this government set out for, and that is what they are achieving. They said they will increase the drag and the tax net and deepen weaken the purchasing power of the naira and deepen poverty. That's what they've achieved. So what else do you expect from this regime? But it's now left to Nigerians. If you want to make hay, if you want to move forward at all costs, The current regime of Mr. Bola Tinubu must not be allowed a day longer than necessary, which is not more than 2027, when he should be kicked out of office, so that somebody else can come in and into the saddle and help to move Nigeria forward.
Barrister Ezeluche, so you know what happened about late last year concerning the failed coup plots, where about 40 persons were disclosed to have been involved. There was meant to be a brutal killing of the president, the vice presidents, the minister of defense, the NSA, and the Senate president. There were core persons that were targeted, even the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, the question is this. In a recent interview, Christopher Musa, the Minister of Defense, said that he was also part of the coup. Not part of the coup, he was meant to be, decimated by these guys. That was the major plan, when this whole thing was being put together. But here is the thing that a lot of persons are considering, whereby if that had happened, it would have caused an economic genocide. One thing that came to the mind was, has the government learned from this supposed failed coup plot? Had it actually taken place, what it would have meant for this government? Something that has not happened in a long time. This kind of thing we heard occurred during the military regime. In a civilian dispensation or in a democratic setting, ever since the time of Olusegun Obasanjo, we've never heard of something like this being planned against a current sitting president. And they're asking questions to the administration that, did they learn a lesson out of this to tell you how bad things had gotten, that certain elements had planned to wipe out the top echelons and economic decision makers of this nation? The exploitation by discourse. Nigerians also feel that the economic genocide is sponsored by those in government and that there is an apathy towards their plight. There's the fact that there is lack of jobs, high cost of food, and then the insecurity. But however, in as much as the solution is not a military coup, has this government learned a lesson from what just exposed, from what was just exposed late last year?
Thank you very much. Let us make it one thing clear. The military coups will not solve the problems, and Nigerians will not at this stage be going and thinking of even having a coup. What we should actually rather be moving for is civilian protest. Civilian protest against evil rules, against evil regime, a groundswell of protest, because that protest is guaranteed by a constitution. You can protest against bad governance. So Nigerians sufficiently can mobilize themselves and protest against evil, but not a military coup. Because these military guys, we have seen through them. They will come in making all sorts of promises that our hospitals are now consulting clinics and blah, blah, blah. And then when they come in, they get worse. We had Mr. Who is this? Buhari and Idiagwa, they came and said their own. Babangida came and said his own. And they left the polity worse off. So we don't even want military regime. The people will take care of these issues by themselves and address it. So the Nigerian population has to rise up and ensure that they do what is needed, what other societies do. Now, with regards to whether this government has learned anything from it, I doubt it. Because one thing that is normal with these characters who think they know it all, or that they have all the power, they have the police, the army, everything. They think they're infallible. So the regime has gotten into its own head that nothing can change it, that they can do whatever they want to do and nobody will question it, that they can bring in a forged tax act and implement it, that they can manipulate the electoral act and do whatever. So they have become like immune to reality. So it is left to Nigerians to bring them down and let them face reality, so that they can realize that the people, power still lies with the people and not with any government. Like even when you calculate all they have, the soldiers, the policemen, the Navy, everything, they are not up to 5% of the population. So when Nigerians galvanize themselves and say enough is enough, we'll be able to remove this evil that's on our neck, that is trying to strangulate Nigerians, but certainly not via a military coup. There is what is normally known as the doctrine of necessity. If it gets too bad that they must be removed before the May 2027, then so shall it be, but certainly not by a coup. The people will protest and achieve gains by protest. Thank you.
Now, just today in Abuja, based on the INEC electoral reform bill, there was a small gathering, there was a protest in Abuja close to the National Assembly. And because of that, we're beginning to see phone numbers of House of Rep members and senators representing several constituencies, and they're asking Nigerians, this is the number of your House of Rep members. If you're joining us right now on YouTube, we're very soon going to post the faces of the senators of each of the zones, members of the Senate Conference Committee. We're going to post their pictures, and then also you're going to see their phone numbers as their contact details. The plan is for Nigerians to call the senators and compel them to sit in concerning the harmonization bills. They are saying they would no longer allow what happened in 2023 to happen again in 2027. But Barrister Eze Eluche, a couple of persons feel that this protest may not actually do anything, and even the contact details of the senators or House of Rep members may not do anything. They may have several numbers. You may call and call and call. It may not be picked. It may not even be the senators. It may be their aides or secretaries or spokespersons. But do you think Nigerians are actually ready to do what you just recommended?
Yes, you see, I think when a human being is pushed to the wall and there's no place to fall back again, cannot go back to the wall, they are forced to react. So until Nigerians feel they've been pushed to that wall, they may not be able to react in the appropriate way they should react. But I think whatever form of protest, whatever form of reaching out to the National Assembly members should be encouraged, because ideally these members of the National Assembly should maintain constituency offices. They should maintain channels of communication with the population so that they can be reached at any time. That is the essence of a democracy. It is not even a democracy if your members of House of Reps or the Senate, you can't reach them, you can't call them. So they should ordinarily by themselves have made their numbers, their email addresses available to the population. So if they've not done that and it's only being made public now, then that is good for our democracy. But then they should hearken and they should understand the feeling of the people. They should gauge the feeling of the masses and know that their power derives from the people. If you recollect, before when the Mr. President announced that he had cancelled policemen for every other person except a few government operatives, the Senate President, Akpabio, had told Mr. President that most of his members of the National Assembly will not be able to go to their various constituencies without escorts. Now that tells you that in themselves, they know that what they are doing in Abuja is not in tune with the desires of the population. So at any instance or in any way possible, Nigerians must find a means, a mechanism to let their members of the National Assembly and the State Assembly understand their feelings on virtually every issue. So yes, it's good to let them know the numbers of these members of the National Assembly and reach out to them. Of course, in reaching out to them, you don't have to be abusive. You don't have to call, you don't have to say, my honorable senator, my honorable member of the House, this is our views on this. And once that sinks in, once they begin to obey the voice of the people, then they won't have any problems. But we must make sure that they have problems if they don't want to listen to the voice of the people. They must listen to the voice of the people. That's why they are members of the House. That's why they are senators.
Barrister Eze Eluche, from Sokoto and Kebbi states, Lakurawa has expanded southeast into Niger State Borogo axis, which borders northern Benin. The lack of state presence in this area is what enabled the group to establish parallel governance structures. They appointed local imams, they levied taxes and enforced extreme religious practices on villages. The scene in that particular axis is that there is no state presence. State presence is lacking mostly in those areas, and because of that, this terrorist group stepped in. They stepped in to serve as a parallel government. They decided activities within those communities, the kind of religion they practice. They gave them a schedule of their movement. They imposed taxes and levies. Why is there a lack of state presence when we have governors of those states?
Well, the reality is this. Nigeria is a fraud. It's often referred to as a crime scene. Every part of Nigeria is a part of a local government area. and we have 774 local government areas in Nigeria. As of today, none of these local government areas takes home less than 300 million every month. 300 million naira every month. But in most of these local government areas, when you get to the local government areas, there is absolutely no government presence. Now, with 300 million, you can actually revolutionize most of our grassroots communities. But because of the graph, because of the monumental heist going on, stealing at the highest level, when the governors in the state capitals pocket almost the entirety of the funds of local government areas, makes it impossible for even any drop of government presence to be felt in these local government areas. That is why terrorist groups like this group you mentioned, Boko Haram, can dominate local government areas for years and nothing happens. Most of these local government areas have no police presence. In fact, in Imo State, there are up to 4 local government areas where there are no single police post, no police station in Imo State, as urban as it is. Not to talk of police like Niger and Borno and all that areas. Now you ask yourself, if there is no local government, no police station in an entire local government area, then how is it possible to maintain governance and rule of law in those areas? And this is what is the cause of the problem in Nigeria. Monumental graft at the center. Failure of the government to allow the local governments to breathe. And if they don't breathe, the villages won't breathe. So most of the local government chairmen you have in the country remain in the state capitals. They collect their funds in the state capitals and don't even bother to go to the local government areas. And that only allows these rascal entities like the terrorist groups to take over and man these local government areas. That is why a killing, monumental mass massacre of over 170 Nigerians can take place in Kwara State. And for more than 10 hours, we are not able to send even one policeman to that area. Meanwhile, 10 hours is enough to move troops from Nigeria to UK.
Yeah.
But we could not send policemen to a community in Kwara State. And anybody thinks we are safe in this country. Come on. I mean, one of the other issues is this. Our constitution says we can only have a federal police force with somebody in Abuja heading the entire police force for the whole country. Now, if there were village police forces, armed police forces in the villages, in the local government areas, in the communities, I assure you, no terrorist group will come in anyhow and begin to massacre. Because even if as a village police force, you have 2 or 3 AK-47s, anybody thinking of storming your village will think twice because he doesn't know where those 3 or 4 guns are. And even the terrorist wants to go back home alive.
Hello?
But there's nobody that has guns there. The police is right there in Abuja with the IG seated comfortably in the Kamsalam building, enjoying himself, claiming to be policing the whole country when he's only policing Mr. President and his cohorts. So the problem is multifaceted. Lack of governance in the local government areas because the governors are stealing the entire funds for the local government areas, and the constitutional provision which makes it compulsory that we only have 1 police force in Nigeria, rather than having police forces in the villages, in the towns, in the schools, in the communities, everywhere. The school I went to in the US has a police force. Universities in the US have police forces, and they are armed. So why is it that we have only 1 Nigerian police force? And this is not working. It's not working, and they refuse to still change it. Before the next 1 week, we will hear another mass massacre somewhere in Nigeria. And then thereafter, Mr. President will send out his condolence message, how he wishes that they didn't die, and he will order troops to go there, and nothing will happen. No, absolutely nothing will happen. Before then, he will travel to Turkey or some other place, and that will be the end of the story.
I'm being joined via the telephone with Barrister Eze Eluche. Barrister, are you still with us?
Oh, yes, I am.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Eze Eluche. So let's continue with the conversation. On December 25, 2025, the target of the U.S. airstrike was the Lakurawa terrorist group. All right, based on official reports. And basically, there were about 136 fighters that died from that airstrike. Nigerians did not know how it happened or what happened. People thought that the airstrike did not do anything, that it just landed on normal earth surface. Nobody died from it. And a lot of, reactions came up from there that Trump was not meaningful meaningfully trying to do anything specifically. He just wanted to throw some huff. But we found out later where these terrorists were killed, the caves where they hide and the places where they habitate. We were able to see how their supplies were exposed and the communities they stay in Sokoto. These are the areas that were dominant. Now, the Sultan of Sokoto never ever said anything as to be that place being the harbinger of this terrorist group, Lakurawa. There were talks that these guys were working with the traditional leaders in those communities, and that's why they were not able to tell the Nigerian government that this is the base or the harbinger of this terrorists. Now, Barrister Eze, despite that expose and the precision airstrikes from the Nigerian Air Force, it's not been able to curb the activities of these guys. Lakurawa isn't just another jihadist group. They are a hybrid organization that combines religious extremism with organized crime. And it explains the rapid expansion and membership from Nigeria, Niger, Mali, Chad, and Burkina Faso, and why containment is a major counter-insurgency challenge. Villagers first reported sightings of Lakurawa in North Sokoto State near Nigeria's border with Niger in 2018. Intelligence had been gathered over time since then. Nothing precise was done in containing these guys. And now they decided to habitate. They were accommodated. They inserted themselves in the communities, intermarried with the community members, acted like they were having to protect these community members. And before you know, we are seeing what we are seeing now. Threats on communities, nobody can speak. Do you think the government enabled the habitation of these guys? Because right now, the Nigerian government, along with Mali, Niger, they are now a military government precisely. We're not seeing a cooperation with their military armaments to fight these guys, because even if you fight them in Nigeria, they move to Niger, Burkina Faso, and the likes. Why are we not seeing a coordinated cooperation with these countries that these people, kind of surround themselves in, in eradicating them? Why are we not seeing that collaborative measure?
You will not see the collaborative measures because those other Sahelian states they don't trust Nigeria. They don't trust the government in Nigeria. One of the kingpins who negotiates, who speaks on behalf of these terrorist organizations, Sheikh Gumi, was even denied entrance into Saudi Arabia because of his terrorist activities. But he's a man who is held in high esteem by this regime. I mean, like you rightly mentioned, the Lakurawa, whatever group they are dominant in Sokoto, where the Sultan holds.
Hello, Barrister Eze, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, continue, sir.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes. The Sultan of Sokoto is Lord and Master of the entire area. So he cannot claim ignorance of these characters, of these terrorists. So when the Sahelian states, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, when they look at those who are the helm of authority in Nigeria, they shy away from even coming to discuss security with you guys, with the country, because they feel that terror enablers, terror sympathizers are in the highest echelons of governance in Nigeria. And that is why these characters breed freely. That is why they can move around. That is why they are integrated into the society, only to cause more mayhem. And most any leader of worth, the Nicaraguan leader, the Sahelian state leaders, they will tell you that when terror festers for more than a week or 2 weeks, you know that there is government complicity in it. I'll give you one example. Mere drones that even cameramen know how to use could help to quell the menace of terrorism, of kidnapping in Nigeria. But you don't see.
Hello, Barrister. Can you hear me?
Private being portrayed by those. I am hearing you very well.
Okay, continue, please.
Yes, I'm hearing you. So, I mean, rather than even devote some resources to acquiring drones and other IT measures, the government rather use it to pamper themselves. So there is lack of seriousness by the government in addressing terror. And once you don't have lack of advantage of the situation, and like I told you, Kwara is just the one that happened is the latest incident. Who knows where next? And you bet before this month goes halfway, we are going to witness more, because there's total lack of coordination, total lack of effort by this regime to address these killer elements. And I wouldn't be surprised, because this is the offshoot of the Buhari regime that has told us severally that an attack on Boko Haram is an attack on the north.
Hello, Barrister Ezra Richie. Are you with us?
Than defend Nigerians. Yes, and you're not hearing me.
Okay, well, it keeps breaking. It's almost like a call is interrupting you.
No, no call is interrupting. So the reality is that most foreign governments don't trust Nigeria to address terror, because it's like this government, like I've said severally, appears to be complicit in it. Because why will you explain 10 hours to arrive at the scene of a massacre? Why will you explain the fact that there are always roadblocks everywhere by military and police, and then when these terrorists are about to strike, these roadblocks disappear? Then after they've killed Nigerians, these same roadblocks will appear. Come on. We're not fools. So the reality is that something is wrong with this regime, a regime that climbed to power by the footsteps of, but using the support of terror elements, cannot be seen to fight the same terrorists. That is the sad aspect of it.
All right. As it feels now, while all of this is ongoing, we're hearing that some soldiers have been conscripted to Kwara State, I think as of yesterday, to see how they can border the premises that onslaught happened. And ADC believes that the Tinubu's government's approach is merely redistributing terror and they're not eliminating it. Barrister Ezra Eluche, there have been several accusations on the administration and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that when he was in the opposition, he said a lot of things against Jonathan's government, which a couple of persons felt he would correct now that he's the president. Is it that when you are outside Aso Rock, it's easy to talk, it's easy to speak, but being in Aso Rock is a different ball game entirely? There are persons who disclose that there are cabals who supposedly could be the spine as to the inability of the government of the day to do something. I don't know who these cabals are. Now, if you have tried to see how you can support the cabal, whatever demand they have, are they the ones perpetrating insecurity in Nigeria? That's one. Two, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government has said that it is their dispensation that recalibrated Nigeria's economy, despite Nigerians complaining that APC created economic genocide ever since Buhari's administration. Now, the APC at some point early last year admitted that indeed the Buhari administration did not live up to expectation, did not follow the blueprint, all right, that the APC had, which is a progressive nation. But that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration intends to correct and strengthen the vulnerabilities of Buhari's administration. Now, a couple of persons believe that the president is meant to be given more time because the challenges of 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari is not something that can be resolved in a year or two. It takes time. But the unfortunate thing is that Nigerians are bearing the brunt and the consequences of the vulnerability of the previous administration. The current administration is begging Nigerians to endure the pain that the president is working hard. So are we saying that due to the prevalence of lack of political will, the lack of know-how when it comes to government administration, instead of these politicians bearing the consequences, Nigerians are the ones' blood being shed in regards to that? How do you see the scenario?
Well, this is a triple-barreled question, but let me try my best to answer it from the very first. You asked about cabal, whether the cabal is the ones causing the problem or not, and all that stuff. The reality is this: a fish rots from the head. If the person at the helm of affairs is actually has altruistic motives for the country will be propelled forward. Now, let me give you clear examples. During the era of the military, when we...
Hello, sir.
These were not perfect men. But because Nigerians perceived, they had the perception that these two men were altruistic and they were focused. Nigerians fell in line and there was some kind of order. There was some kind of probity. There was some kind of propriety in the system. So, but once people perceive that the person at the helm of affairs is just grabbing as much as he can, does not give a damn about what himself and his family and thoughts,
okay,
all hell is let loose. Yes.
All right. Sorry, you
all hell.
I didn't hear you there.
Okay, I'm saying that, but did you hear when I said?
Hello? Hello, Barrister Eze. Okay, I don't know. We're having a network situation. Barrister Eze, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes. Yes, sir. You were saying?
Yes, I said. Did you hear my knowledge about the Buhari Idiagwa regime? That when Nigerians perceive their leaders to be upright and focused, Nigerians tend to follow their leaders. And then there'll be some kind of altruism, and the country will move forward. But once there is a perception that those leading the country are just there for their own personal gains, personal aggrandizement, and that of their family, all hell will be let loose. So that is what has happened in Nigeria of today under Bola Tinubu. There is the perception, and there is the reality that this regime is all out to cushion their own pockets. I mean, the focus has been, what do I gain for myself, my families, and my cronies? So with that perception, all hell has been let loose. Ministers, governors, local government chairmen are just seeing whatever they can grab from the system. And that is what has placed Nigeria in the very sorry state it is. It's not a matter of cabal or whatever. It's a matter of poor leadership, lack of will to even move the country forward, and flip-flop economic policies. This regime comes up with one policy today. They come up with like the increase or the removal of subsidy for fuel. That alone virtually destroyed the Nigerian economy. And now the world is perceiving that the government is even using forgery as a cardinal principle of governance. When something as important as the Tax Act has to be forged and is still being implemented, and the world is also watching the electoral bill, what is going on with it. So those kind of perceptions is what gives Nigeria, makes it impossible to move this country forward. To your question on the economy, about what's, I mean, when you look at this economy, they just brandish figures that the economy is doing well, that he has laid the structures. What structures? A structure of poverty, deepening poverty, pauperizing the population, a situation whereby most of the conglomerates, foreign conglomerates, have left Nigeria, and you are only trying to tax your way out of poverty. Who does that? What is going on in Nigeria is that the weak, the poor are being fleeced, are being taxed into extinction, because the people who should pay this tax are nowhere to be seen. Corporate bodies have vanished. They are no longer here. All the so-called FDI, foreign direct investment, is what comes in from crude oil sales and crude oil companies, which is neither here nor there. Because virtually the entire funds that comes in from the oil sales is used to pay off debts, fictitious and real debts. So when they give this news that the economy is improving, and they bring support from characters in the World Bank and IMF, who are only there to say what the government wants them to say, and they give that as their reason that the economy is improving, you only shudder in disbelief. Because when you and I go into the markets, and our naira is not able to purchase what it was able to purchase a year ago or even a month ago, you don't need to be told that the economy has tanked, that the economy has gone down the drains. When you cannot even pay your NEPA bills again, because NEPA is now, electricity bills, because the bills have become outrageous. For a family of 4 living in a 3-bedroom flat, they pay minimum wage of 80,000 naira per month for electricity bills. Not to talk of food. How do they get money for food? And somebody comes out and tells that this economy is improving? Well, I think if given the chance, Nigerians will choose who is saying the truth, whether with their ballot papers. But they even want to destroy that hope. They want to make it impossible for Nigerians to choose who will rule them with the ballot paper. But whether ballot paper or not ballot paper, Nigerians have the choice. They can decide to continue in slavery and penury, or decide to put a stop and say enough is enough. I believe Nigerians will say enough and it's enough at the appropriate time. Thank you very much.
Barrister Ezeluche, thank you so much for giving us your time and speaking extensively on the questions, a barrage of questions that I threw at you. I sincerely do appreciate you for helping to put things in context.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ezeluche. We sincerely do appreciate. Mr. Lama Ekundaya, good evening. Thank you for your patience. I needed to be done with Barrister Eza. You know he's not always with us all the time, so I needed to make sure that I take advantage of his time. What would you say in regards to what we have discussed here? I would like to know your perception before I open the phone lines.
Oh, thank you very much. It's what he has said makes a lot of sense. That Nigerians are openly to our face being deceived by the people who call themselves the government.
Okay.
There's a difference between government and a slave master. There's a difference between government and a slave master. So I see these people as slave masters, not government. Because a government is to govern. That is, you make use of all the resources for the benefit of everybody. That's government. That's governance. A slave master is interested in what he wants to gain. That's all. He doesn't care about what happens to the slave. They can die. They may not eat. The only thing that he gives them is to sustain them, to continue to exist for his own hand. And that is what we're experiencing in this country. Look at that electoral act.
Yeah.
So why are they telling us they are reforming? What is reforming about what they have done? What's nothing? They just garbage in and garbage it out for us. Just package what they started with and give it to us back exactly what they started with. So see, they throw it out to our face as if we are nothing. So I call that slave masters. It's the same thing with the tax. I keep saying it. Like last year, when that tax came up, I said, what about the income tax that the state is collecting? You said you harmonize the federal. Is the state one not going to happen again? And we saw that the state one is still going on as usual. People are being taxed by the state as of now. So when the federal starts its own, it will still be harder to read. So what have you really done? People say it's going to benefit us, it's going to widen the test. I don't see anything that has to do with when you widen a net. That means you bring more in to ease those who are already in and are under pressure. Those who are already paying heavily their body will go down because others are coming in to ease the pressure. But no, there's more. And now we have the electoral reform. That is not electoral reform. It's just garbage in and garbage out. Totally. So what else?
Mr. Lawal Kondari, Miyetti Katal Haure has been indicted in some of the shenanigans ongoing in the north. They said over the years they have been able to become a thick fabric of network resident in that axis. Lack of state presence is one of those things. They also utilized religion to perpetrate some kind of radicalization and misorientation. A lot of the children there, due to poverty, no adequate school, nobody to guide, no disciplinary measure implemented aside from religion. They took a couple of the children to the forest and were training them. They started with the religious leaders, telling them there's poverty, there's nothing the government of the day can do for them, that by this they are helping Allah to do his work. And they also do what you would call use the opportunity to get rich. These children, if you have seen a couple of videos, you will see teenagers, young boys, 10, 12, 16. In some instances, they go to communities, decide the women they want to marry, and the family members have no option. In fact, they would even tell the parents they will tell the parents of the warden that we want your child at a certain age to marry one of our persons, and they come and they have no word, nobody can do anything. These individuals help them resolve internal disputes, marital dispute, even land dispute. It got that bad in a country where we have a governor, we have state House of Rep members, we have the judiciary arm in the state, but you will see these terrorists helping to resolve internal conflicts in the communities, helping to tell them how to navigate their everyday life. And it has spanned over the years. It became something that the people were disengaged from the government, and the government too were apathetical. There was no connection, there was no communication. The only time you see the government trapeze these areas are during elections. So who caused the breeding, the consistent perpetual breeding of these terrorists? Is it the government? Is it the lack of government presence? Could it be moral decadence? Could it be the twisting of religion to warp the mindset of these community members? We need to understand if we want to resolve an issue, we need to go to the root. I would like to know what your take is there.
When you say disengagement, I like that word. the government disengaged and didn't disengage. They are operating two arms of the disengagement, two types. The first disengagement is that economically they disengage from the people. All over this country, the government disengage from the people. Go all over. Tell me which part of the country, in Nigeria, that the government is engaged economically to the people. They disengage economically, but when it comes to politically, they engage. That is what they are doing. So economically, they disengage. Politically, they engage because they need the people to continue to be in power. And they also need to keep them away from economy in order to continually chain them to their will. So economically, they disengage from the people. Politically, they engage. They are engaged to the people. That's the way they operate. We all know, it's all over the world. Which system do we operate that is defined in anywhere in the world? We can't even define it. Our own definition is totally different from what we're doing. And nobody is doing what we're doing. So where do we get what we're doing? Let me give you a good example. They disengage from the people. We know that the closest government to the people is the local government. It's not the state government. It's not the federal. It's the local government that is closest to the people. Now, this local government is not functioning well. Why? Because their resources, the people who rule them, are controlled by certain people. They don't have their own police. They cannot police their own area. Everything has to come from the federal. The state will look at it and decide whatever it wants to give them. They cannot even generate their own resources and say, okay, this is what we generate. We need to employ our own youth. We need to develop our own area. They don't do that. It's done by either the federal government or the state. So how do the people who are in the local government connected to the government? You see a senator that collects 2 billion will say he did 2 boreholes for them in the community, and then they will start premium, and he will now put his signboard around it, and then the people will now begin to praise him. Or he will put 1 or 2 solar lights there, and that is what he has spent 2 billion on, for God's sake. The same thing with the rep. The local government chairman, you rarely see them. The councillors, they are totally out of place. So how do you now economically engage to the people? You can see, and then the people fend for themselves. You see the way, even look, you see it even worse during the, thank God that God is with us in this Nigeria. See the time of this COVID-19 lockdown. In Nigeria, there was nothing like lockdown. Everybody were totally close to one another. You see people fetching water, putting water on their heads, all over the place. No light, they have to come together. So where was the lockdown? But God saved us. So you can see the way they disconnect from the people economically. But if you have the state police working, you have the resource control of each local government, the people will now be connected to the government, because the human resources will be put into use. Every local government, the people in that local government will be valuable. This terrorism will disappear because of the fact that you know one another in that community. You can identify a stranger, get the police to take down the strangers.
All right, Mr. Lawa Ekundaya, let's take a listen to the Senate committee. There was a fracas today in the House. Ali Ndume stood up to Senate President Godswill Akpabio, shouting, "Don't steal his mandates," shouting at Akpabio over Electoral Amendment Committee. Let's just take a very brief listen to this, and then we'll open the phone lines.
Mr. President, the chairman of the committee is here. You have to put the chairman of the committee, because he has the conference committee. You have a chairman who represented us in doing this thing, and then you exclude him from the harmonization. What kind of harmonization are you going to do? No, we are telling you about experience. That is how there's a legislative procedure. That is the procedure. Yes, you can have the person who did this work is here, and when you want to go and harmonize, how can you harmonize without the person that did the work?
So while all this was ongoing in the Houses concerning the amendment committee and sparking concerns in the national.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, Senator Ningi. Senator Ningi, don't go far now, but because you just made a point that the chairman. Okay. You know how I wish there was any reason. How I wish there was any. How I wish there was any reason to shout. If there was any.
So while the situation was ongoing, Alin Dume's mic was shut down, and Godswill Akpabio wanted to speak, and obviously he continued to reverberate.
Yes.
But the thing is, a couple of persons will say this is how National Assembly is supposed to be healthy, not everybody being on the same page. But Alin Dume on the part of this, after this, complaints came up and said, Alin Dume, what do you want? I mean, the North has enjoyed beneficially from Buhari's administration. So what more do you guys want? If the insecurity in your region has been prevalent, it is you guys who has not done anything about it. You never raised up your voices during the time of Buhari. The onslaught and killings were ongoing in your regions, in your constituencies, and you were mum in the National Assembly. So is it because Tinubu is from the Southwest and you think that this is the time you guys will speak up? That's a perspective the APC guys are coming from. What's your take on that? We need to
that is why I said that economically the government is disconnected from the people. Politically they are connected because they need the people. Look at the way he quickly turned it into some kind of tribalism.
Who did?
Yes, the Senate the Senate president.
How did he turn into it?
Because why are you not saying that? Because during the time of Buhari, you didn't complain.
I didn't say Senate president. I said Nigerians in reaction to that debacle in the House. That's what they came up with. That so Alin Dume, you are now speaking vehemently now. You're in the APC. You're obviously called Buharist. But in the 8 years of Buhari, these killings were persistent. I mean, the whole Islamization agenda was very obvious and prominent in that administration. Not one word. So now that you're speaking up and it's happening, is it because it's Tinubu is from the Southwest? So you think you want to bully him with some of the rhetorics you guys are spreading around?
No, let me separate it into two. Now, Akpabio, as the Senate president, is the worst I've ever seen in my entire life when it comes to politics that I know. Because I know that when you are a Senate president or a speaker, you don't speak. It's the floor that discourses. The Senate president doesn't talk. His own is just to moderate. They don't speak. It's for you to moderate that, okay, you have your time to speak. They are the one to discuss, debate, whatever is on the floor. It's not the duty of the Senate president to be coming on board and speaking. No, you are the umpire, for God's sake. You are the judge. So being the judge now, you are the one to now decide the case. You are the one to argue the cases. Then why do you have the reps there? That is the work of the Senate president. As a president of the Senate, you allow the floor to discuss it and decide the case, and then you moderate. But here you see him talking every now and then, switching the mics of reps who are senators who are speaking, which is very
mean.
And then you are the one talking, you are the one discussing, you are the one every now and then. Why not go to the floor? Why not go to the floor? Make yourself a senator, ordinary senator on the floor. Give that post to somebody if you know you want to speak. You can't be an umpire and be on a side. But he's always taking side every now and then. Go to the go. He was a governor for 8 years. And then he's a Senate president. He couldn't even go abroad to see the way it is done. Go to Europe. Do you see it? I don't know.
Very often.
You see the way they even show it for us every now and then. See the way it's done even in America. Do you see the Senate president coming out to speak? You rarely see him talk. It's the senators that are talking every now and then. In America, the parliamentarians are the ones speaking. In UK, you see them arguing among themselves. You rarely see the house the speaker speak. It's to moderate. You have your time. It's your time to speak. That is your work. But here is totally different, and I don't understand why. It's because the people who are ruling us, they just fail to do the things the right way. They fail to do the things the right way. You are a moderator, for God's sake. You are a moderator, you are an umpire. Maybe he doesn't know the ethics of that senate senate president post is sitting on. He doesn't understand the ethics and the rules and regulations. And Nigerians now, some Nigerians who call, these are not Nigerians. These are people who are paid to make, no, people who talk. The moment they see this, anybody in the north speak, you will say, they will come out and say, is it because somebody is in the south, it's their turn?
Okay.
Is the moment somebody is in the south, they say, is it because somebody is in the north, is there? These are the people who are paid to do all these things, and it's their job. Let me tell you something. Now, you see people from the south traveling to the north. Don't they face this insecurity there?
Very well.
People from the north are traveling to that. Don't they face it? So why are you not telling me that it's because it's in the north? So you don't travel to the north. Go to all these interstate buses. You see how Nigerians are traveling over there. See the number of Nigerians who are traveling day and night across to the north. And then you are not telling, is it because the northern is, we are talking about something that is bad, and then somebody is now, kind of finding a way to divide us so that we can continue to leave something that is bad to continue as if it is normal thing. This is getting too much.
All right, thank you so much.
So, having watched all those clips, I want to believe that you are on the same page with the current situation. You see, now people are more informed. It's not like before. It's not like before that these things can be done without problems. But now people are more informed. The social media make things very easy for information dissemination. Yes. So that is it. Well, I am still Chinedu. Until I come your way next time. Bye for now.